Hi everybody, and welcome back to the Walk and Tell channel. During a visit to the south coast, I spent a few nights at the Shore View Hotel in Eastbourne. I can highly recommend this small but charming seafront hotel, but from here I spent a couple of days visiting Hastings and the town of Battle, where the famous Battle of Hastings took place in 1066. Stay to the end of the video to see a spectacular display of lightning flashes looking out to sea. As always, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and press the bell icon to be notified when new videos are added.
This has to be one of the more fashionable buildings here on the seafront at Hastings. Particularly with that Roman style frontage there. And it's also in the shadow of the castle. And there's a close-up of the Roman style architecture, or maybe it's Greek, but the clock at the top there is showing the right time, 10 to 2 in the afternoon, although the buildings around it seem to be in need of a little TLC. And this is what I've been looking for. This is the funicular up to the castle. I could have walked it, but I'm taking the easy route. It costs £4.60 for an adult, or in my case £2.80 for a senior. And here's my transport. Okay, we're off. Here's the view from the top of the hill. It's quite breezy today. This area of the castle, in particular the West Hill, was where William of Normandy based his troops prior to the Battle of Hastings in 1066. Quite a nice little view here, looking down on Hastings. You can see the pier there. This part of the castle is where the church was located, with the tower in the foreground, and the entrance to the church would have been the archway at the back, with the nave being in between the two. Here you can see the fortifications looking out to sea. Here where I'm standing now at the top of the hill is where the Normans raised a mound of earth known as a motte, and a timber building was placed on the top. The area around the motte, known as a bailey, would have been enclosed by a wooden stockade. So Hastings can claim to be the first motte and bailey castle in England. And here's the entrance to the dungeons. Absolutely extraordinary. There's a complete maze of tunnels here where the dungeons are. It's like an underground cave. And now on the bottom floor of the dungeons. Certainly wouldn't have liked to have been a prisoner down here. This is a part of Hastings I've been looking for. This is the Old Town. Very quaint. If you fancy a pint, there must be more pubs per square yard in this part of Hastings than anywhere else. Right here, for instance, you've got the Anchor Inn on one side of the road and your old pump house on the other. And the road is pedestrianised as well. The pump house is actually a very grand looking Elizabethan type building. I think I might actually have a pint here. And the entrance to the pub is actually up a little side alley here. The old pump house started life in the 1800s as a pump house, but it didn't become associated with the liquor trade until 1856, when it sold wines and spirits. Since then, it's had various other trades, including a coal merchant, a bookshop and a shoe shop. And although it looks Elizabethan, it is of course mock Elizabethan. And it's been a public house, as it is now, since the mid-1950s. Now this is quite novel: Boulevard Books and Thai Cafe. And that's what I like to see outside the cafe and bookshop. Cash only. I'm at Hastings bus station now, which is right outside the railway station, and I'm catching the bus to Battle, which of course is where the Battle of Hastings actually took place. And appropriately enough, the number of the bus that I need to catch is the number 1066. Well, I've arrived at the town of Battle. The bus journey took just under half an hour from Hastings. Here's the view of the main square, and I'm standing on the steps of the Abbey. And here is the main entrance of Battle Abbey, which was founded in 1070 by William of Normandy, and legend has it that the high altar was built on the location where King Harold died. Once you go through the main entrance of the Abbey at the front, you simply walk straight through to the back, and here is the view. To the left hand side there's the Abbey School, which is actually a functioning school, and of course it's private, you can't go in the grounds. Of course you can walk around the outer perimeter and view where the actual battle took place. The two sides of the battle were based on two hills. This is where the English under King Harold were based, and opposite the valley, on the opposite hill, is where the Norman troops were gathered. And I'm descending now into the valley where the main part of the battle would have taken place. And this is the valley where the battle would have raged, with swords, bows and arrows. At one point it was rumoured that the Duke of Normandy had fallen, and the Norman army retreated accordingly. But when William showed his face again, the battle of course resumed. Once the fighting resumed, the Normans attacked the English, who had pursued them down the hill, but even with their protection of the shields, the English were annihilated by the Norman troops. Well, I've now walked round to the hill where the Norman troops were assembled, and from here this is the best vantage point. You can see the valley where the battle actually took place. The perimeter actually takes just over 2 hours to complete the whole walk, and I'm going to cut a little bit off here. I'm just going to walk across country in the valley. It's hard to believe that I'm effectively walking across the actual battlefield where the carnage of battle would have actually taken place. Of course, the medieval Bayeux tapestry depicts scenes from the battle. Part of the battle would have been fought in this spot prior to the Abbey being built, and you can get some idea of the slope of the hill downwards. This thatched octagonal building was the dairy where the milk would have been churned into making butter. Below a sloping ground here is the crypt, which was excavated in 1871. The markings on the ground here show where the high altar would have been, and William the Conqueror ordered that this was to be located where King Harold fell. There's an inscription on this stone here which is written in French, but if my French is good enough, I think it reads that this is the tomb where King Harold was laid to rest. And the building in front of you is the back of the school which you saw earlier. Standing now right inside part of the Abbey. And there's some steps and an archway there which lead up to another floor. This upper floor would have been a common room for the monks, who would have used it for periods of recreation. On the upper floor is the dormitory where the monks would have slept. The small archway that you can see in front of you leads up to the top of a tower, and I'm going to walk up the steps. Well, I made it to the top just before they shut the doors, and this is the view from the top. It's now 7 o'clock on this September evening, and before I make the train back to Eastbourne, just a very quick look at Hastings Pier. The early evening seems to be a good time of the day, to look at the pier. The sun will be going down very shortly. And it's rather unusual to see beach huts on a pier. Not quite sure what this is in front of me, but I'll go up the steps and see if I can find out. Well, apparently it's a rooftop bar, but I don't know if it's still open. As expected, the cafe, of course, is closed. But how about that for a view of the hotels along Hastings seafront? And there's a glorious view of the setting sun. And if the bar was open, you could be sitting and enjoying a drink, looking down at the view from the terrace. Unfortunately, I can't walk to the back of the pier because it's roped off, but you can probably see some benches down below. And there's a little stage there where presumably they have music in the daytime. Just one more thing to do before I catch the train back to Eastbourne and before the sun goes down. A quick walk along the beach. This part of the beach is shingle and stone, which is like many other beaches along the south coast, although when the tide does go out there is some sand